Intelligences from other worlds are very aware. I mean, they are experts in psychology, much more so than we are on this planet. They understand human reactions. They know that for decades, what UFO material governments have amassed, they've kept in their defense departments, their defense ministries, the Pentagon, and so on. Not only in Britain, America, in other nations too, of course. And that's because their motives have been belligerent. Their motives have been to find out what weaponry, how they can use this, how it affects their position in the sort of the world of diplomatic, so-called diplomatic intelligence and so on, not to get to the great truth of the spirituality and the wisdom and the enlightenment of these intelligences. They know that. They know that people can be fearful about this topic, and they do also know, and I'm sorry to have to say this, the tremendous apathy which the human race is capable of. And so therefore they go about this in a brilliant way, a way that many of us on Earth may not understand. I mean, I've often heard it said, well, if they existed, they would do this. They'd take over radio stations. They'd land openly. They'd do this. They'd do the app. But of course, that is all speculation based on terrestrial psychology. This is extraterrestrial psychology. And they have their own plan and their own mechanism and their own methodology. And it's a brilliant one. And I think it's incumbent upon us not to think what we feel they would do, but what they actually do. One thing I've noticed in years of campaigning on UFOs, flying saucers, as they used to be known, very mundane term for these wonderful craft, is that every step we take towards extraterrestrial intelligences, they take at least two towards us. And this has been proved to me. I remember, I mean, actually this week I did an interview on Guernsey, BBC Radio Guernsey, among other interviews I've been doing. A very nice show on that station. And the first thing I was told is that there was a sighting in Guernsey in the previous evening. Now, of a UFO. That's not unusual at all. I was on a show once with Johnny Walker in Bristol, and during the broadcast, the phone-in on UFOs, a UFO actually came down, and a beam was emitted from it onto the car of somebody driving, listening to the program. There were no mobile phones then, and he stopped the car and phoned in from a call box to the radio station, and then got back in the car. The beam was retracted and drove on. Now, this was a very credible witness who actually later on did not want publicity, driving with his family, and they all witnessed this. I remember doing a campaign when the book Contacts with the Gods from Space came out, written by Dr. King, with my help. It came out in his lifetime, but he was poorly at the time, and I was doing with others, a campaign of the UK. And we started in Leicester. We went to, I think, 22 cities and towns, and we ended in Torquay. And on the first day of that tour, there was a massive sighting in Leicester 2 hours before the lecture, seen by people who hadn't even heard of the lecture. They weren't coming to the lecture even. And then as I arrived in Torquay on the last one, on the front page, there was a headline which said, UFOs seen heading for Torbay, which is in the Torquay region. And again, they hadn't heard of our lecture. And this happens all the time. It's happened this week. I mean, the book was launched this week, only last week. The Pentagon confirmed this footage of UFOs and adopted a completely neutral stance. It happens all the time. I remember investigating the sightings together with my wife, Alison, of Mary King, the mother of Dr. King. And we visited the sites where she'd been actually had encounters, close encounters. And that night we had a most spectacular UFO sighting from our hotel bedroom window at exactly the same time that she had had her encounter, which I believe was 3:30 a.m. And so on. And other people could reel these things off. These are, you might say, small indications, but they are definite indications, in my opinion. And this is because they are basically waiting for humanity to change.